Mr. Anupam Bakshi to please come up on stage and take your seat. Mr. Bakshi is the Vice President, Digital and Electronic Banking Group, Axis Bank. He is a consumer banking professional with extensive exposure in digital banking, credit cards and payment solutions. Welcome our panelists, Mr. Alok Gupta, Chief Operating Officer at Embark, Mr. Siddhartha Pava, Chief Executive Officer at Meru Cabs, Mr. Rushil Goel, Head at Ola Money, and Mr. P.T. Suresh, Director, Paycraft. Over to you, Mr. Bakshi.
So much. I think the topic we have is very, very interesting, and it is quite close to the hearts of all the panelists who are sitting out here. And each one of them is playing a critical role in the ecosystem to shape this up. Now, if we look at the entire payments ecosystem, disruption, although payments is a technology enabler, looks to be very glamorous and looks filled with lot of possibilities. But if you look, disruption in payments in one lifetime probably happens once or twice. That is what the consumer ecosystem around payments is. That probably, in my payments lifetime, I'm seeing probably only disruption which will happen with devices coming in. Otherwise, in next, again, 10, 15 years, probably it will again not happen. And transportation as a category of consumer behavior has a very critical role to play, or can actually change a complete landscape of a city with respect to its payments behavior. And that is where digitization of payments in transport ecosystem is so important. And there is a lot of things which is happening in the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is pretty complex. There are upcoming players like cab operators. There are traditional public transport organizations. So for example, if you look at BEST or BMTC, they do close to 3 to 6 million tickets in a day. Just think of the number of transactions. So, and then you have 20 metros which are upcoming, 5, 6 of them operational, and there is a typical ecosystem which is prevalent there. Not only this, there is another ecosystem which is the entire toll ecosystem. And that ecosystem, the central government really wants to digitize in a very short period of time. So let me start with few relevant questions from the panelists. My first question is to Alok, because heading Embark, I think he works with government very, very closely. And I want to ask him is that, what do you think will be the impact of digital payments in any smart city ecosystem, and how will it drive the overall payments ecosystem in the country, and especially with respect to transport players?
Sure, Anupam. Before I answer that question, I just want to bring the focus, when we say smart city, what's the context we're talking about here? If you look at India, we are as a country going through a very rapid urbanization. We're undergoing a tremendous economic growth. And what it means is in next 15 years, we are expecting another 200 million people joining the urban spaces. So we are looking at a major accelerated growth. And what it really creates a challenge is that, we need cities which are fast-paced, which are evolving at a rapid pace, but yet we want those cities to be environmentally friendly. We want those cities to give a life to the society which is, economically actually progressive and also socially progressive. It's a very difficult task. You're talking about a system which is highly complex, and on top of it, when it's evolving at such a rapid pace, how do you manage your services within those cities which can, keep up with that pace and yet achieve those objectives? And that's where I think the role of technology plays a very critical, enabler, because when you talk about the systems where they're changing at that fast pace, technology can really allow you to basically handle that effectively. It really allows you to implement a continuous improvement cycle, where you can actually keep up with the rapid change, because you cannot predict correctly up for the future, that what's going to happen. You have to keep up with that evolving, processes. Now, when we talk in that context, I think, from a mobility perspective, public transport is a very critical, piece, because for your cities to be healthy and, evolve in a positive manner, the mobility solution has to be actually catered to significantly with the effective and efficient public transport. And in that context, I think, if I have to say, the digital payments, the ITS system, adoption, and also the third is the adoption of standards and data plays a critical role, to ensure that these systems which are built are able to plan, which is, data-driven plan, and able to keep up with this rapid change. Second, they are operationally efficient, because if you're not able to bring the efficiency, you will face difficulty in terms of managing them on a long-term basis. And then on top of it, it actually adds the accountability and transparency into the system, because, when you're cash-based systems, there are a lot of leakages which you have to, cater to. Now, in that context, if I look at, this piece, the adoption of digital payments and some of the, associated technology adoption in the public transport, I think it opens up the opportunity of some fundamental shifts which, we can force in a foreseeable future we can see. I think the one of them is the multimodal transport integration, which I think is very important from the sustainability of the mobility solutions. Second one is the targeted subsidy, and I think that can be really a transformational change. How can public transport, with the appropriate digital payment solutions and technology adoption, marry those with, with Aadhaar, which is being there in India, and really fundamentally look at, is there a different business model which can be adopted, from all subsidy to a targeted subsidy, and I think it's known that largely our public transport, suffers quite significantly from the, maintaining the operation costs. So I think that can be a very important aspect. The third is also, I think, with the adoption of digital payment, it can contribute significantly to the financial inclusion initiative in India, because when you talk about financial inclusion, opening of a bank account is one side of it, but I think the ability to allow an unbanked person to become comfortable with the digital payments is a very important aspect. And I think that's where public transport, catering to various economic group of people, plays a significant role to make that shift.
Thanks, Alok. Coming into the overall, the larger benefits to the society, PT Suresh, will you like to highlight, especially from, so there are places like cabs which accept digital payments, and there are places like metros which have mandatory kind of digital payments. But there is a big chunk which is known as public transport organizations, which is, for example, in Bombay you have BMTC, BEST, and you have, every day we drive our cars through some city tolls or some highway tolls. So what are the critical benefits PTOs need to consider, and what are the challenges and resistances, do you think, in adoption of these digital payments, specifically from PTOs and toll operators' perspective?
Thank you, Anupam. See, I've been personally associated with payments in public transport, being part of the Ministry of Urban Development 5-6 years back, right now with the National Payment Corporation of India. So I run a company, we specialize in transit and toll side. But having said that, if you want to know what is the benefit, you can just ask these two gentlemen sitting on my left and right. Today, hiring a cab, traveling in it safely, and paying, all three things, actually they have revolutionized what has happened. It's there to see. I don't think we need to say anything more. Convenience is the biggest single factor that public transport needs to bring in, which sadly has not happened either in metro or in public bus transport, or for that matter in the rapid coming up BRTS, the bus rapid transport system, which is there in Ahmedabad, Surat and such places. So convenience is the single largest factor. It's a public utility. So the convenience can be ushered in only through policies and processes of government. As Alok was saying, bringing in a city standards or a state level standards or at least a national standard, so that if you are in Mumbai with one card, you can travel across BEST bus, the metro, or the suburban rail. I mean, if you can do that, you know, the government in, today in power would have done a great service to the citizens of this country. So convenience is a factor, because transit, as Alok was saying, it is a highly subsidized sector. You travel by train or bus, I can tell you it is 1/10 of the cost of what you otherwise spend in any country, anywhere in the world. So from my experience of having dealt with 20-25 public transport companies like BEST, BMTC, BMRCL, almost all of them are bankrupt. Every year, this particular state government gives them a grant, which is called the deficit funding. Okay, in such a scenario, asking them to change, put in IT systems which can accept digital payments in their automatic fare collection. So the complexities are multifold. The central government is seized of it. They have again embarked on a common mobility card approach, but this time they are being careful. What they have done is they have advocated open loop payment system, in the sense that a bank card can actually be used on in public transport. One of the first cities in the country which is coming out with such a payment mechanism is Cochin, with a new metro coming up. So legacy system had its challenges. So Cochin, it's being a new city, perhaps we would be doing that there. So I think convenience, support to the public transport organization to implement digital payment system. These are two critical factors, and plus the will of the government. I have heard, you know, in the newspapers, the Maharashtra Chief Minister saying that I would like to introduce a common mobility card in the city of Mumbai. I sincerely hope that is followed up through, you know, monitoring, implementation. That's very key. So I think that much I need to tell you about digitization and payment in public transit.
So I think, Suresh, there is a lot of relevant questions coming up from what you have kind of placed on table, but I will still hold on to them. And I'd like to ask Siddharth and Rushil as to how are the cab operators and the new startups in this space are seeing digital money and use of digitization in the payment space, and how do they see the space evolving overall?
Yeah, so I think from our perspective, we've seen quite a lot of traction from digital payments. Customers really value the fact that they have this cashless experience at the end of a ride, where they can just step out of the ride without having to worry about it, worry about change, time they spend on it. And frankly, that means they don't have to carry cash with them, at least for this use case, which is very frequent. So I think customers see that value of convenience that was brought up earlier. We see that they keep a lot of, for what we see in our cases, that means that customers keep a lot of balance with us, since we are more of a prepaid system, and use us frequently because of that. So I think the key thing is there's a lot of traction. For us, more than half of our transactions happen electronically versus through cash, which I think just goes to the fact that customers value that convenience. So I think that's been our experience in this regard.
Okay, so the only point that I would want to add is, normally when people talk about e-commerce or talk about you know, doing digital transaction in any of the other industries, it's once in a month, maybe twice a month, 3 times a month, 4 times a month. Transportation is a space where people have to travel every day, and maybe more than once, twice a day. You know, you do an up and down journey. Therefore, the number of transactions that happen in transportation space are significantly higher. Therefore, the convenience of making payment is something that is going to be very, very important for the consumer. We have seen that people who have migrated to digital payments, their transactions go up by at least 3 or 4 times on the on the transportation space as compared to somebody who wants to pay by cash, because handling cash, doing that transaction at the last minute is always a challenge. Coming on to Anupam saying in terms of, I see two things that are going to be very critical in the future to make digital payments as something very, very convenient. The first is sharing economy is something that is going to be the future in this country, in the globe as well as in this country. And if there is a sharing economy, transfer of money from one person to another person is going to be the most critical factor if you want to really digitize payments. Today, most of us, when we are doing payments, are making payment to a Meru wallet, which can have various wallet, or making a payment through an Ola Money or whatever. But going forward, making an ability to make directly payment to the driver is going to be one of the biggest things if you really want to bring that solution. However, the biggest challenge in that is going to be how will you provide interoperability for those, because you will have, maybe the consumer or the passenger has A wallet while the driver is using a B wallet or a B solution system. How will you ensure that interoperability happens? Yeah. The second thing is, we have seen that consumer has a repertoire of choices as far as travel solutions are concerned. It's the same set of consumer who will travel in a cab, who will travel in a metro, who will travel in a bus, etc. Unless he has a solution that the payment option available with him can be used on the multiple modes of transportation, his behavior will not change, and that is going to be the most critical thing, that whichever payment gateway is looking at a sector, look at the sector in entirety so that all the needs of the consumer can be actually taken care, and he really starts believing that every time I have to travel, irrespective of the mode of the transportation, the mode of payment is going to be that particular way for me, and those are the two things which I believe are going to be very important in future.
Thanks, Siddharth. I think two pieces which are clearly coming out or emerging from what panelists are saying is, Alok touched upon it and Suresh touched upon it, is standards, and second is interoperability. And when you talk of interoperability, it is between instruments, between players, or between financial institutions, or between accounts, and then there is interoperability across different modes of transport. So these are the two very relevant questions which are there, and in case both are not handled, it is obvious that any smart payments or digitization of payments will fail. So first I'd like to bounce off this entire proposition to Suresh as to how do you see specification, standards and interoperability working out in our country in the next 2 years to 3 years time.
Before that, Anupam, you are from the banking world. So I think I've seen the banks now bidding for transit payment projects. I think before I say, because standards is a boring subject, I think what's more interested in the money side, what is that banks per se see in this sector that has attracted so much of attention?
I think so. Yeah, banks have traditionally been into payments business. So one obvious reason is we want to be in payments, and therefore transit and transportation provides a big platform to being part of consumer wallets and everyday journey. And as Siddharth was saying, that the number of transactions which you see in transit, we won't see in a consumer life cycle any other. It also helps, therefore, and banks are into holistic retail businesses across payments, across deposits and across lending. And therefore, this ensures, and we have a lot of use cases across cities whether it is CPass in Singapore or Octopus in Hong Kong or TFL in London. And I think the time has come in this country now that a holistic electronic payments is delivered or platforms build up even at city level, because Singapore, London and Hong Kong are just cities and not a country, to deliver this to consumers. And obviously once you deliver a payment methodology to consumers, then you can do a lot of other interesting stuff in business around it. So it's a combination of innovation, being into payments and doing and managing a consumer's life cycle. That's where I think the banking industry is seeing this entire. As it is, we are always very interested wherever cash gets converted into digital money, because I think cash is a very, very, very costly way of managing money. In fact, my discussions with BMTC and other few public transport organizations, although there has been no formal assessment made, but in simple management of cash every day, each conductor, each bus, each shift, each reconciliation, each loose change is humongous. And digitization will only bring in so much more efficiency. And there have been some pilots which actually have shown that PTOs, which is public transport organizations, I'm not talking of metros because their fare pilferage is not very high or does not happen. But in buses or bus transport organizations, fare pilferage because of non-digitization can be to the tune of few crores because of loose change. So every time you board a bus, you don't get loose change back. And that itself will be costing the consumers a lot. So it's overall holistic reason why we see this space as a very interesting space to drive the overall economy.
I'll just add one point, to that. And at a macro level, I actually read one of the, I think it was McKinsey report or some, I don't remember exact source, but at macro level it was talking about the cost of managing cash in a economy is around 2 to 3% of GDP. So it's quite significant.
That's interesting. Alok said it's cost of managing cash is 2 to 3%. Cost of managing cash in transit, it's documented, it's in the website of TFL for London, it's somewhere around 9% in transit. As Anupam was saying, if anyone had, at least 4 or 5 years back, I remember in Delhi, if you travel by a DTC bus, and 8 rupees is the fare, you give him 10 rupees, he will give you a ticket for 8 rupees. Behind that, he will write 2 rupees and say, collect it from the nearest depot. So that's the pilferage that he is talking about. Bangalore does about 6 million transactions a day in transit in the bus. Delhi metro and bus put together is about 7 to 8 million transactions. In Bombay, public transport transactions somewhere around 15 to 16 million transactions. So I will answer Anupam in another way. What the bank see is that this is one of the largest use case of prepaid in, as an instrument. Whether you do it on a mobile, whether you do it on a wallet, whether you do it on a plastic, that's a big business case. And what people like us are trying to do is to promote, you need traction to have numbers. Public transport organization, as I told you, is beset with their own problems of operating income, losses, capital cost, etc., etc. So can the banks and other financial institutions come in this area and fill in that gap, bring in the kind of technology, bring in the kind of customer service required to make a dream happen, that somebody comes in Mumbai city with one single, a ticket or a wallet on a mobile, you can travel across various segments. Towards that end, to answer the specific questions you put to us, yes, we have been associated in developing the common mobility standards, open standards, on like something very close to EMV. This is, we have worked with the NPCI in, here in India, and has brought out, they call it, the brand name is Q-Spark. It is the transit equivalent of EMV for India. The Ministry of Urban Development, Government of India has now approved that as the standard for which now the public sector companies can adopt. I mean, any transit company can adopt it in their automatic fare collection system. Also, it is just not restricted to RuPay. The government is moving the standards to the Indian, Bureau of Indian Standards. So any payment scheme, Master, Visa, or RuPay, or for that matter, anyone, they could pick up these standards and develop their own applications on the card and start making an open loop, interoperable transit card a reality in India. That's the latest step. A lot of challenges in it, but so far, I think it has been a positive step. And, compared to, I have been associated in some way or the other when the Singapore CPass card was, CPass is the operating system which is interoperable in Singapore across ferry, across the metro, across the buses, etc. That had taken 2 years, more than 2 years to develop. And in India with the NPCI, I think we did that in 12 months. Of course, technology has moved ahead 8 years back what it was, but that much work has been done, but there are still challenges ahead, but it's still very positive, the outlook. Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh. I think very insightful. At the same time, let me pose this question to Alok as well, as to how because I think Alok has been part of one of the committees which was instrumental in forming of common mobility specifications. As well as Alok, I have an additional question to you, is that because you touched upon it in the introductory note, is how do you see multimodal transport, and I think maybe the audience, few may be new to it, how do you see multimodal transport panning out in this country? Because now each city, especially the large ones, will have a metro, might have a local, might have a bus, and might have a cab, and will have a tolling solution. And few of the southern cities, in fact, also have a ferry solutions. So how do you see the multimodal transports panning out in the country?
Sure. So first, about the common mobility card standard, I think if you really look at the whole initiative, it's a very, I would say it's a very forward-looking, decision. Because the way it is being rolled out, it's a standard which can be adopted by any public transport authority. And as long as each of these authorities actually adopt that, the card which is issued to a consumer, will work across the nation with any authority which is on that standard. And I think it is very unique and very relevant in Indian context, because one of the challenges in the Indian, transport authorities is that the coordination between across authorities is a very difficult task. And in that context, to enable a system which actually allows that interoperability without the need of interconnecting these authorities, I think is a very positive, and it's a very strong, decision and very practical in nature. The other thing which I also want to touch is, I think from a, from an interoperability, which is also very important in this context, is that this payment system will not only work on transit but also work in the non-transit. The point which I think some of our colleagues here addressed. If you look at from a consumer point of view, right, you would like to have a payment instrument which cuts across wherever you want to do a purchase, right? You have to have that kind of a behavior in a cashless instrument which is there in cash. When you walk with the cash, you don't think twice whether this will be accepted or not, right? So I think that behavior is very important to adopt. And then with this whole open payment system being adopted, I think one of the valuable thing which is coming is, given in Indian context, the transport authorities are cash strapped. This actually creates a huge synergy between the private sector and the public transport authorities in such a manner where each of the authorities actually, each of the players actually focuses on their their core competency. The payment industry focuses on their core competency. The transit agency focuses on their core competency of providing that mobility. And they synergize in the best way where you actually use the existing infrastructure and existing capacity in the payment, industry at the, to utilize it at the best for the transport. So, it's a great, I think, partnership model. Of course, one has to see how, MOUD takes it forward and, basically kind of get it really adopted at a national level. But I think one has to acknowledge that this is probably the first in its kind, a standard being adopted at a national level. Nowhere else in the world, you have seen that. I mean, Singapore being a very small country, I think the comparison probably is not similar. But I think it's a very, very, strong step in that context.
Just one point, yeah, you're right, Singapore is a city country. But, a city like Mumbai, BEST is owned by the Bombay Municipal Corporation. The suburban rail is owned by Indian Railways. The metro is owned by a private sector alliance. One more new metro is coming, which is be owned by another department, MMRDA. The biggest challenge that we see, it's not technical, the biggest challenge we see is to bringing together all these organizations under one umbrella, which can only be done by a appropriate authority at the state level, in terms of who can actually dictate, mandate, say that this has to be done for the citizens of Mumbai, Delhi or Calcutta. That is the biggest, it's more a political challenge rather than a technical challenge. There is a business model, as I said, for banks because it's a prepaid system. If we are able to digitize it, the same can be used. For example, I was just talking to Siddharth outside. He says, their APIs are open. Any wall can just link it to them for making payment. Same thing we could do here. The Common Mobility Card app on that can be linked to Ola or Meru or anywhere, and that completes your last mile. You've flown from Delhi, come from somewhere by train. So I think it's an exciting thing, but challenge is also political. Let me put it that way. That's another perspective I thought I'll just tell you. Yeah.
Actually, just to extend, so I mean that actually sets a good context for your multimodal integration. So, from a multimodal integration, so there are two aspects to that. One is from a consumer perspective. I think from a consumer perspective, the ability to have a multimodal integration and the ability for you as a consumer to actually do a trip planning which cuts across, various modes of transport, including taxi or, or auto at the last mile, is a very important need, because if you really want to make cities sustainable, I think that's going to play a critical role to move people away from their own vehicle, a single vehicle driving. Now, from that to become a reality, I think having a common payment mechanism is an important aspect, but it's only one of the legs on which this, this foundation will set up. The other very important, pillar is what, Suresh just mentioned, is the institutional integration. Because when you talk about multimodal integration, the true integration also requires some of the institutions to coordinate, because the integration has to go beyond just ability to pay through the same instrument, right? From a consumer perspective, if I'm cutting across two different buses or buses and a metro, right, the total trip cost should be of a different nature. The convenience which I should get should be far greater, and that requires a coordination in terms of the scheduling, in terms of the placement of the stations, right, in terms of the credit which I get. And I think that's the huge challenge. I think that's where the political will and the administrative changes are very, very important.
Yeah, so in fact there is one more body which regulates payments, which is DPSS RBI. So, and so I think from a multimodal transport, there is, briefly Alok touched upon it, there is something called a fare penalization. So when you don't have multimodal transport and every time you change your medium, you move from a metro to a bus, and from you move your bus main route to a feeder bus, you are penalized on the fare. So if you go into, other countries or economies, basically if you change your mode of transport within half an hour, 1 hour, you are basically rewarded to take public transport. So that's, yeah, Siddharth, you were wanting to make a point.
Just to touch upon the multimodal, solution which is there. One thing we all should realize, that India is an economy that is skipping many transformative changes that happened in the Western economy many years back. Yeah, whether it is your retail, whether it is your e-commerce, whether you're talking about purchase of vehicles, whether now you're talking about digital payments. In spite of credit cards being available in India, the overall penetration is still in the low double-digit numbers. Therefore, expecting that there is going to be somebody from the government who's going to come and say, I am going to now make sure that everybody is going to be on a single payment gateway and give all that consumer-based transactions level to one party, there would be people who are working with different verticals, and let those payment gateways keep working with the different verticals. And the payment gateways then have to be mature enough to say that we will create a seamless transaction ability between us so that the consumer inconvenience does not happen. And that's the thought leadership that, at least I would expect to come from the payment gateways, that forget about whether you get a common platform from the government or not. Make the process so robust with each vertical that you're operating with, and then make it seamless at the top, that between all, there is a seamless transaction that happens. And if that happens, that's going to be the real change that the Indian economy will see in next few years to come.
Actually, that's the open loop payment system that's being adopted.
That's a very valid point, because if you go across mediums, toll works on a passive tag mechanism in the country. Metros work on a closed loop card mechanism, and cab operators have started kind of working on wallet mechanisms. So there is, I think, all will kind of grow independently, and there needs to be some point of convergence. How will that happen is a question which we'll need to address in future. So looking into the entire context of how the entire ecosystem is shaping up, in that ecosystem, so cab operators have moved some distance, in the last 2.5 years into the digital money. So how do they see that changing with 20 cities coming up with metros? Obviously there is an ecosystem which will shape up. Buses being incentivized by central government under JNURM scheme to digitize money and to digitize ticketing. So there will be a lot of digital stuff happening in this space of public operators. How do you plan to kind of adopt or extend yourself into that ecosystem?
So I think a lot of those things that we discussed around multimodal being all interconnected, money being interoperable, I think those things start playing in. From our perspective, a cab is one part of the point-to-point journey that a customer does, a cab or a rickshaw or whatever they're taking. But as we've touched before, they're probably taking a metro and then getting off and need last mile connectivity, or they just got off a flight and they need something, right? So we've talked about transit here, but I think, if I just broadly think what all people go from point A to point B, there are all these modes. What we see very clearly is that purely for customer experience alone, I think there should be seamless integration across all this. Whether it is in terms of scheduling, whether it's in terms of pickup points, I think that's what you had alluded earlier. So I think that has to be integrated, and we've seen some movement there from private players. I think some from the public operators, but probably more to be expected to be done there. So I think that's one part of it, which is not directly tied to payments, but I think is more around overall customer experience. And then payment should really be, the key kind of thing tying all these things together. If I'm taking a journey which is 5 steps and it involves 5 or 6 different operators, then whatever currency I'm using, whether it is the cab's currency or somebody else's currency, should be usable across all those. Again, I think prepaid is one form to do it, but may not be the only way to do it. That depends more on what customers are comfortable with, but I think that's where things will go. The way we see things is also that we want to make sure that for a customer, they shouldn't have to worry about how to get from point A to point B, whether they'll get there on time, whether they'll have the cash to pay for it. So all those things should be seamless. So I think that's how we see it evolving.
One of the things that Meru believes is that sharing economy is something that is going to be the future, and therefore we launched a product which is called as the carpool service. It's a service that is where Meru is just a platform. Any individual guy who is traveling in his own personal car from point A to point B can offer the seats in his car to somebody else who wants to go in the same direction. And we were very clear that this is something we would not want to make it as a cash transaction, and we wanted to have a solution where a P2P payment can be done. And for very simple reason, if you're in a if you believe in a smart city concept, and if you believe in that digitization is going to be the way forward, you would just make one trigger on your mobile app, and that will ensure that either at the start of the trip or at the end of the trip, the payment will get transferred from the person who has taken the ride to the wallet of the person who has offered the ride. And that's the number of transactions which will really change the behavior going forward. We believe there are about 1 million cabs in this country, but there are about 10 million personal cars in this country. And if any city has to become smart, one of the big thing is that the load utilization of the vehicle has to increase from 1.2 seats to at least 2+ seats. And that's where carpooling and digitization is going to help in the future. And that's what Meru is working in terms of making sure that happens.
I think very relevant point. I think every day I drive on the Western Express Highway, I think, why so many empty cars? I think as closing notes, there's a humongous amount of traction happening in metros, in metro trains as well as in buses. Standardizations are coming into place. The payments systems are kind of getting aligned, and there are at least 2 projects which are happening in the country which are based on open loop EMV standards. The normal EMV cards which you use on your in your credit debit cards are getting contactless, and there are 2-3 projects happening in the country on the EMV contactless module, so that you can, as Alok said, you can pay at your McDonald's as well as you can pay in the metro and buses using the same card by a variety of mechanisms. Maybe you can use the same card to load Ola wallet as well as a Meru wallet, and vice versa. So that's on the tolling side also. Government of India has taken a lot of steps. The Union Minister has made an announcement that electronic tolling will get rolled out by the end of this year, and there is a lot of traction happening there. So I think from a digitization, these are huge pieces. Tolling is a 22,000 crore business in this country, and as per 1.5 years back data I am quoting, maybe few toll plazas have closed down in Maharashtra. And each PTO, public transport organization, does 1,000 to 2,500 crores of ticketing, and you know how many cities are there in this country. And not just there is a consequent rippling effect or cascading effect of digitization of payments. I think that was what we is that when you accept digital payments in your buses, in your parking lots, also you accept the same payments, and in close small eating joints you accept the same payments. Digital payments in transit helps to solve a lot of micro payments which still has not been cracked in this country, and that micro payments is sub 100 rupees micro payments in this country. So this is an interesting space panning out, and many players, including people sitting in this panel and rest of the ecosystem, are working, and I think in next 2 to 3 years time you will see an interesting time. Any closing notes from Alok or Rushil?
Actually, I just wanted to ask one question for Anupam. As we see that, the 2 projects, Kochi and BMTC, right, we are seeing the banks getting involved. The whole business model is a very different in nature right now. The question I have for you, how do you see this evolving over a period of time? Because this is a starting, right? From the bank's involvement in this space from 2 aspects. One is the whole revenue business model aspect, right? Because today, the 2 projects which are awarded is literally being kind of, cost is being actually absorbed by the bank. Whether that will be a long-term play, or you see it evolving in a different context? The other context, which is also very interesting, which I want to hear your thoughts, is that these projects which we are talking about in the large cities, how do you see this becoming the engagement of banks in the payment industry coming in for the digital money for the cities which are tier 2, tier 3, especially in the public transport, bus authorities, where the amount of the size of the fleet and the transactions are fairly low? Is there a possibility to have a viable business model there, and what that will be?
Yeah, so I think the models will change over a period of time. So we are just at the starting of the journey. And over a period of time, there will be multiple experiments which will happen by different PTOs. And depending on, what is relevant at that point of time. So I think over a period of time, models will evolve, models will change. We have just kind of started or begun the journey on what could happen in 2 cities, and possibly in the 3rd one or 4th one things might change, or 5th one. As far as the low fleet size, for example, there are 500 buses in a city, or 1000 buses in a city, or 200 buses in a city. I think it will go gradually. So once I think the top 20 cities digitization happens of fleet operators as well as metros, I think then things will become more clearer. So I think we are 3, 4, 5 years I think will take for top 20 cities to get on board, and after that the smaller cities will follow suit. Any questions?
Good afternoon. My name is Tarun Mohan, and we're working on the common hardware ecosystem for transit payments as well as wallets. The ecosystem required for normal payment online for a taxi company is different from that of a transit payment, say metro or a public bus. We need an offline wallet for the public transport or a metro solution. Online taxis can work on an online wallet. No hardware device today can support both, interoperable. How do you plan to crack that out? Second part of the question is, we may have standards uniform for the country. This is the specs you follow. But every operator wants to have their own keys for the handshake protocol exchange. Now if I go and ask, say, Delhi Metro for giving a card which handles Delhi Metro and say Noida Metro or something else coming up, he won't give me the keys. I'll inject it myself. So we have to have a common card which can handle, say, public transport, Delhi DM, buses, autos, metros. I need keys for all 4. Can we do something where a central body handles the key injection on a card, on a platform? We have the hardware ready for it, but are stopped because we can't handle offline wallets with multiple keys injected. Each one says, you give me your chip, I'll put my own key into it. If it goes into a customer handset, he can't get the hardware back. Impossible to recall the hardware. How do you do it out? That's the basic stumbling block today, as I see in the country happening. We have the hardware ready. The whole back-end exchange, everything is ready.
Yeah, the first part of your question is in the cabs it is online payment, whereas it is offline payment in transit. Yes, the application which sits on the reader, both for online and offline, are different. If the payment, I would say the secure element is on the mobile, we can do both offline and online. So, mobile has actually revolutionized the way offline and online can happen. Pardon me? Pardon me? Yeah. So, that is one way to answer it. Second thing is, in one of these pilot projects that we are doing now, open loop, in the Cochin Metro, we, in the metro gates, we are doing both online and offline. Both have been done. It's more a software challenge than a hardware challenge. Since it's open loop, what we had specified in the tender is the hardware supplied has to be level 1 EMV compliant. So once that is done, then it is the challenge of the software developers how to do that. So we have tested it as of now. Once commercial application starts, maybe we will go through some pain, but I think eventually we will be able to stabilize it.
Yeah. So, and one more, I'll kind of add to it that the problem you are facing, and that's exactly what we are trying to solve in this ecosystem, is that you don't have to go to 4 players for keys.
Yeah.
Once you have standardized standards which are accepted and which are rolled out at a national level, which have been rolled out, and once the adoption happens, you don't have to go for keys.
Yeah.
And
See,
till a system becomes interoperable, it never becomes scalable.
See, the challenge that you are facing is from traditional application providers in the transit, like metros, where they use symmetric keys which are proprietary. So only they in their backend have these keys. What we have now moved away, which the government has recently approved, is the public key PKI basically. With that, this problem will be sorted out, hopefully. It will take a little while to move from the legacy systems, the new ones, but that would be eventually be taken care. See, the other way of handling it is, suppose it is not open loop, then like London or for that matter, Singapore, etc., the keys would have to be given to a central authority. So you as a manufacturer just approach them, they give you the keys in encrypted form, then you get master key, you can do the sub keys and things like that. So that's second way of doing it. But otherwise, yes, it's a challenge today. Unfortunately, when Delhi is the first metro to start, because India was new, the Delhi Metro never asked the keys to the service provider, he never gave. And when in the second line the tender changed, the first guy said, I will not give you the keys, you never asked for it in the tender. And they had to pay a heavy price for it. So that's that, but now everybody has learned. I can tell you that keys will be now be with the authority who will then share it with everybody else. So what you're facing now is a peculiar problem, a legacy, partly because of ignorance in the past.
Then it should work.
Shall we? Any additional questions? Sorry, transaction time?
The transaction time in offline mode for metro is below 500 milliseconds.
With the PKI.
Pardon me?
With the PKI.
With the?
With the PKI.
Yeah. Below 500 milliseconds. Pardon me? Yeah, for the gate throughput, you're saying. So, I mean, we don't want to get too technical here, but when you say transaction time, it's just when you present the card, the reaction time of the solenoid valve to open the gate, that's the transaction time we call it. 500 milliseconds is what is mandated. So we have done a bench test. We are able to do about 400, 450 milliseconds as of now.
So it is on the EMV contact.
Yes, on the EMV contactless. Yeah.
There's no, again, sub-standardization and any new attachment standard from India?
No, nothing. It's an application that has been developed, so to that extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are the same standards applied for the Q parks for all the transit in India?
No, the current contactless standards like Visa, Wave or other things, they don't support transit from the speed perspective.
Yes.
But if you see in London, they have overcome that through a different way. What happens actually in London is, if you have a Visa or a Master contactless international card, you go there, you show it on the gates, it opens. Okay, that's because they don't do a e-purse transaction there. Payment is done in the back end. But London has evolved. I think between the banks and them, they have an understanding what is the risk floor limit, etc. Maybe India would move to that in a matter of time, but still we are at the infancy. We are still grappling with the basics. We have not even reached that stage.
Even because EMB, the offline also has a very potential. When you go at the small stores, where the banks can almost put a standardized MDR charges, no transaction MDR charges.
Yeah.
So that's why we can encourage the card acceptances at the lower transactions.
Yeah, with the margins
low ticket values.
Like McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's, or even we go to a small banya shop, when even we buy at 10 rupees, 2 rupees, we get a toffees. But if we pay with a small stockage, we can save 2 rupees.
Sure, I'm sure the banks will revolutionize that contactless payment system.
And I think there should be no MDR charges for that, for the merchant to encourage it.
But it would be very, very low, very low. You see, in UK, the MDR charges is 2 pence. You know, I mean, okay, if you convert it to Indian currency, you will still stay it as high. But from a purchase parity and a currency parity, it's pretty low.
Yeah, but as an Indian nation, I think we should have 2 pennies too big cost for a small Banya merchant to operate less than 1%.
So you could say 2 paise.
Yeah, a fixed cost could be better for him to encourage. Thank you.
Right, I think there are no more questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Bagchi and all the panelists. Can we have a big round of applause for our